Some people carry their pain so quietly that the world never suspects a thing. They laugh at the right moments, offer support to everyone else, and move through life as if nothing touches them. But behind the controlled expression and steady voice is a storm they never allow anyone to see. These are the silent sufferers, the ones who bleed internally while appearing perfectly fine on the surface. They don't ask for help because suffering in silence has become a habit, almost a language they learned early. They believe pain is something to endure, not something to share. And the more they hide, the more invisible their struggles become. To others, they seem strong. To themselves, they feel alone in a way words could never explain. Their silence isn't indifference, it's survival, a quiet attempt to hold themselves together before everything finally breaks. People who never ask for help often carry a deep fear of becoming a burden. They believe their struggles are too heavy, their emotions too complicated, and their needs too demanding for anyone else to hold. Even when someone genuinely cares, they convince themselves that reaching out would inconvenience the person or create guilt. This fear doesn't come from ego, it comes from past experiences where asking led to rejection, dismissal, or emotional punishment. So now, silence feels safer. They think, if I handle it alone, no one gets hurt because of me. Their independence isn't strength, it's protection. They choose isolation not because they want distance, but because they're terrified of being seen as too much. In their minds, disappearing into their own pain is kinder than risking being someone else's burden. Many people who never ask for help were shaped by childhood environments where strength wasn't a choice, it was a requirement. They grew up in homes where emotions were dismissed, chaos was normal, or responsibility was pushed onto them far too early. Somewhere along the way, they were silently appointed the strong one, the one who holds the family together, the one who doesn't cry, the one who solves problems instead of having them. So they learned to swallow pain before it reached the surface. They learned to smile while breaking. They learned that needing support meant failing at the role they were given. As adults, this identity becomes a cage. Even when they're drowning, they keep performing strength because they don't know how to be anything else. Asking for help feels like betraying the version of themselves they were trained to be. For people who never ask for help, vulnerability doesn't feel safe, it feels threatening. Opening up means exposing wounds they've spent years trying to hide. It means giving someone else the power to judge, dismiss, or misunderstand their deepest pain. And for them, that risk is far scarier than suffering alone. They've learned that showing emotion can backfire. Maybe someone once mocked their feelings. Maybe their honesty was used against them. Maybe no one listened when they needed it most. So now, vulnerability feels like stepping into open fire. Their heart chooses armor instead. They stay silent not because they lack emotion, but because revealing it feels dangerous. Asking for help means losing control, and control is the only thing that has ever kept them from falling apart. Some people don't ask for help because they secretly believe their needs are something to be ashamed of. Somewhere in their past, they learned that needing comfort, support, or reassurance made them weak, dramatic, or too emotional. So they trained themselves to stay quiet, convincing their heart that silence is safer than being seen. This shame grows every time they struggle alone. Instead of thinking, I deserve help, they think, why can't I handle this myself? Their pain becomes a private failure, something to hide, rather than share. Over time, they begin to view their own needs as flaws, proof that they are not as strong as they pretend to be. And because of that belief, reaching out feels humiliating. So they suffer quietly, carrying the weight of emotions they don't think they're allowed to have. Rorma teaches silence long before a person understands what silence costs. For many who don't ask for help, their past holds moments where speaking up only made things worse, times when their pain was ignored, mocked, or punished. Instead of comfort, they received rejection. Instead of safety, they met resistance. So, the mind learned a harsh lesson. Staying quiet hurts less than reaching out. Trauma conditions the nervous system to stay alert, guarded, and self-reliant. It whispers that vulnerability is dangerous and that trusting others is risky. As a result, even gentle offers of support feel threatening, unfamiliar, or impossible to accept. Their silence isn't stubbornness, it's a survival mechanism shaped by old wounds that never fully healed. They carry pain the way others carry breathing, automatically, quietly, endlessly, and trauma convinces them that asking for help will only reopen scars they've worked so hard to hide. Hyperindependence isn't confidence, it's a nervous system stuck in survival mode. People who never ask for help often grew up in environments where relying on others felt unsafe or disappointing. Their body learned to handle everything alone because depending on someone once led to pain, chaos, or betrayal. Over time, this becomes automatic. Their nervous system reacts to stress by shutting people out, tightening boundaries, and taking control of every situation. To them, self-reliance isn't a choice, it's protection, even when they desperately want support. Their instinct says, handle it yourself. It's safer. So they push through exhaustion, hide their breakdowns, and pretend everything is fine, because letting someone in feels unfamiliar and threatening. Hyperindependence looks strong on the outside, but inside, it's the body's way of saying, I've learned not to trust anyone with my pain. I'm fine is one of the most practiced lies. Among people who never ask for help, they say it automatically, not because they're okay, but because admitting the truth feels overwhelming. Behind those two words lies a fatigue that goes far beyond physical tiredness, a kind of emotional exhaustion built from years of pretending everything is under control. They've learned to hide their shaking hands, their breaking voice, their sleepless nights. They've mastered the art of holding themselves together long enough to convince the world they're strong. But every "I'm fine" drains them a little more. They aren't avoiding honesty, they're avoiding collapse. Letting someone see the depth of their struggle feels like opening a floodgate they may never close again. So they keep smiling, keep functioning, keep pretending, hoping no one notices how close they are to falling apart. Their silence is not peace, it's survival. Some people don't ask for help simply because they never learned how to receive it. Their whole life, they've been the giver, the comforter, the listener, the problem solver. They know how to support others, but when the attention turns toward them, they freeze. Compliments make them uncomfortable. Care feels unfamiliar. Kindness feels undeserved. Receiving requires a softness they were never allowed to develop. When someone tries to help, they feel exposed, unprepared, and unsure of what to do with that generosity. Deep down, they believe accepting support makes them weak or dependent, even though it's a natural human need. So they push help away with phrases like "I'm okay," or "don't worry about me," not realizing they are rejecting the very connection they crave. They aren't resisting others, they're resisting the parts of themselves that don't know how to be held. People who never ask for help often become the ones who help everyone else. Supporting others feels natural to them, safe, familiar, and comforting. It gives them purpose and shields them from facing their own pain. When they're taking care of someone else, they can avoid acknowledging the wounds inside themselves. They pour into others because they know exactly what suffering feels like, and they don't want anyone else to experience it. But this compassion rarely extends inward. Helping becomes a disguise, a way to look strong while silently falling apart. They give endlessly because receiving feels uncomfortable and vulnerability feels risky. So they continue showing up for everyone, hoping someone might notice their struggle without them having to say a word. But most people don't. And that's how the cycle continues. There is a unique loneliness reserved For people who suffer in silence, it's not the loneliness of having no one around, it's the loneliness of feeling unseen even while surrounded by others. When someone never asks for help, the world assumes they're fine. Their calm tone, their steady presence, their quiet strength create the illusion that they don't need support, but inside, they're collapsing. They wait for someone to notice the subtle cracks, the tired eyes, the distant voice, the forced smile. They hope someone will ask twice, look deeper, or stay long, enough to see the truth. Yet because they never reach out, people believe they're strong enough to handle everything, alone. And that misunderstanding becomes its own prison. The loneliness grows not from isolation, but from being misunderstood. They aren't alone because no one cares, they're alone because no one realizes how much they're hurting. Healing begins the moment they understand that asking for help is not weakness, it's permission to be human again. For people who've carried everything alone, the first step is unlearning the belief that their worth is tied to their strength. They must slowly relearn what safety feels like. Being heard without judgment, being supported without conditions, being cared for without owing anything in return. This healing often starts in small ways, sharing a worry, admitting exhaustion, letting someone hold a piece of their truth. Each moment of vulnerability rewires the nervous system, teaching it that connection can be safe, not dangerous. Over time, the walls they built begin to soften. They discover that help isn't a loss of control, but a bridge back to themselves. The journey is slow, often messy, but transformative, because once they allow others in, they realize something powerful. They were never meant to carry their pain alone.